that I'll do this video here in my kitchen area. Yeah, because it's a good lighting and good internet connection here. So my phone is pretty far from me, so I won't be able probably to see your comments now, but I'll definitely come back to your questions which you ask during the live. Yeah, so I'll go through all these questions a little bit later. I got just only one since I posted this on Paper Pro Tutorials, and this was about that was from one of my Australian colleagues about how do I manage bookings, how many hours a day I work, and what else? Yeah, how do I organize all these orders from customers? So we'll see. I'll definitely tell you, but yeah, I'll say it now. It's pretty difficult question, good one, but pretty difficult because there's no one sentence answer for this. But yeah, I'll go through this. Oh, so many of you now. Hello. So yeah, I thought that I'll talk today and tell you about my business, because now I can proudly say that Sydney Paper Flowers and Paper Pro Tutorials is a business for me. That's not a just hobby. That's not even a just paid hobby. That's a business which I do. That's a home-based business, and yeah, it takes me for long hours. I'm full-time busy working mom. For those of you who maybe do not know me yet, my name is Anastasia, and I run 2 accounts here on Instagram. It's Sydney Paper Flowers. This account is dedicated to brides, moms, visual merchandisers, or stylists and event planners, to those who purchase my flowers, those which I make and sell or hire in Sydney, in Australia. Some of flowers which I make, they go overseas to other countries, but this business, Sydney Paper Flowers, is for those who purchase flowers. After a couple of years, I found that, well, I'm ready and happy to share my knowledge, share my experience, and I'm happy to start teaching. So I started Paper Pro Tutorials. So some people say, wow, we were not aware that Sydney Paper Flowers and Paper Pro Tutorials that's the same person. This is you. Yes, I am. So I run 2 of those, and at Paper Pro Tutorials I share this experience, how I make, we sell templates and video tutorials, how to make paper flowers. We have a community of paper florists from all over the world. We have a YouTube channel where you can find our free videos which you can watch and learn a little bit, to learn basics in paper flower making. And what else? We recently opened the Telegram channel, but that's just very small yet. So yeah, if we come back to how I started, and why and how much it took me to grow this as a business, that happened almost 3 years ago. We actually moved to Australia. I'm Russian. I'm from Russia. I spent most of my life in Russia, and 6 years ago, actually a couple of days ago, we celebrated our 6 years anniversary here in Australia. So we moved with our family of 3, with my husband and my small daughter. She was a little bit over 3 years old. So we moved to Australia. And before that, in Russia, I was an HR manager for over 10 years. I could do nothing actually. Just being an HR manager in different companies, and that's it. Well, I always was creative person. I could sew and knit and, well, not drawing actually, but well, some creative stuff was always that was always was part of my life. But I never ever had any time and energy. After these working hours in the office, I had no any chances to do something at home, just for my pleasure. So when we moved to Australia, and we decided that, well, for a while I'll stay at home because I will watch after my little one, and yeah, I can do whatever I want. But yeah, no work, just because we're new to this country, we're new to this area, and I have a kid which does not speak English, which has no friends, has no any daycare to go to. So yeah, I stayed home, and pretty well, in a few months, I would say, I found that I'm a bit pregnant. So we decided that there's no any chance now to come back to the office to start this corporate HR career, because it will took me for a year or two now with this pregnancy, with the baby, and with all this stuff. So yeah, I stayed at home. But being pregnant, I got all this creativity madness in my mind. I don't know how it happened, but I wanted to do this and that and that and that, and trying different things. Actually, my husband always had a dream to have any sort of family business, and always asking me, let's start something, let's try something. I said, well, I don't know what to start, I don't know what to do, I have no any idea. So I thought that this story about this family business is over, that's finished, that's no, that's not for me. I'm not a business lady, not a businesswoman. No, I am a former corporate HR person. That's it. I will sit home, I will knit some clothes for my future little one, and that's it. And I found that knitting all this tiny stuff, I found that yes, that's a pleasure for me. I love to do something with my hands, and that would be great if I can do, maybe not as a business, but just for a little bit of money. And I started trying this and that and that, and I opened Facebook for myself, because being in the corporate world and being a manager, I had no any chance even to explore all these social medias. I had no Facebook profile that time, my personal Facebook. I had no Instagram. I knew everything I knew about Instagram that time was that my husband takes photos of foods, of kittens, of something, and posts there, and watching other photos like this in this bloody social network. So I was always asking, what is hell is this? What is this for? What are you doing? Where are you spending your time? So I had no any idea what to do with this. And that time, being pregnant, I found, Facebook is not bad, and Instagram is pretty fun too. So, and these things, my creativity and social media, they were separate that time. I just started exploring this and that and that. And then I found that one Australia-based photographer posted on Facebook something like a photo of different paper boxes, tiny boxes like this made from paper. And she said, oh, how lucky I am. I brought these boxes right from Russia to here, to Australia. And now I'm lucky I'm covered for the year or maybe even more because I'm a photographer and need to pack all my USB drives and hard drives when I have photo shoot and when I need to bring this to my client afterwards. So oh, they're so cute, they're so tiny, nice, and blah blah blah, they're handmade. And I asked her, are you really sure that was a good idea to bring 100 of boxes made from paper, to bring them right from Russia to Australia? Couldn't you find anyone in Australia who could make this for you? She said, you know what? No, I couldn't. If you, Anastasia, can make them for me, I will buy them from you. So that was my first insight when I opened that, well, the handmade world here in Australia isn't that good. Isn't there any other person who can make these simple, tiny boxes made from paper? But at that time I had any experience, any idea, well, maybe just an idea, but definitely no any experience how to make boxes from paper, because you remember I was an HR manager and had no any chance to try this. But well, I was pretty good student at school and in university, so I remember something from geometry, from math, from physics, and blah blah other classes. So I could at least imagine how I can, or well, I could make this box. So I said to, and there was another photographer, Russian as well, saying, you know, I will be your first customer if you make these tiny boxes now. So I give you a chance, make them for me. I thought, well, that's good, I'll try. So I tried. To be honest, my first paper boxes were not as good as I would make them now, because now I work with different kind of papers. I know they I know much more about these papers. I have much more tools available. I know much more suppliers of good quality papers than I knew 3 years ago. So, but anyway, these first boxes, they were really pretty cute, at least. And the only, I would say, really significant thing I did not, and I still do not love about them, they were made from pretty thin cardstock. Yes, I used designer cardstock, but that was still I would say about 200 GSM something. And now I wouldn't make any, even this size box out of 200 GSM. I would go for 300 or even maybe a little bit higher, 350. So they are much more sturdy, and yeah, when you touch, not the baby, not the toddler touch them, but even adult touch, and they won't damage them. So they will be pretty secure for the stuff which is inside. And maybe would even make this double bottom and double lid. But yeah, for that time they were soft and really extremely fragile. That was the biggest failure of mine. So yeah, but at least I started. Later on, I got a few orders from other photographers who saw these boxes, saying, we've been searching for this for years, and here in Australia and overseas and from China and from everywhere else, and we want these boxes, so make a few for me and for me and for me. So I started making these boxes for photographers, trying different techniques how to print or make their logo on the box. So for example, let's say this is the box. You see, you have a, that's a Converse box actually. So you have a logo or something on the box, and then you open, and these are nice small photographs, or just a really tiny flash memory there inside. But anyway, most of them wanted their logo, so I bought a huge professional printer which takes 300 GSM papers and A3 format and prints in color. So I started printing this. So that was a pretty interesting story in my first steps with photographers and my first steps in paper related business, I would say. But what I found, every photographer wanted to have, well, let's say 20, 30, 50 boxes. Can you imagine? They all are similar. I want 50 boxes, sometimes 100 boxes. This size with my logo, all similar. After a while, I found that that's so boring. That's really boring. The only really cute things for me was having different customers. So all of them wanted different techniques for me to use to print their logos. Not only printing, but sometimes there was a foil, sometimes there was kind of engraving or something. Different techniques, but the same idea, the same size boxes, so I could make them with my eyes shut. Well, boring. But what I found then, some photographers started asking me, oh, if you work with paper, by the way, could you make me a favor? I'm having a this cake smash coming soon. Could you please make me a garland or a bunting or maybe a few paper fans, you know? And I thought, well, that's not boring anymore. So that's a good opportunity for me to try something different. And I started making fans and garlands and stuff, and posting these on Facebook. What I found later on, that moms and even brides found me and started asking questions. Oh, by the way, could you please make a few fans for my bridal shower? And other moms were asking, oh, you know, we had a photo shoot with our photographer, with our local photographer, and we saw your paper decorations. They were so cute. Could you please make a little bit more for us, because our first birthday is coming? And I got more and more and more orders like this from different ladies around, and I found that's completely different world, because all the orders, they are so different colors, different shapes, different products, garlands, buntings, flowers and stuff. They all were new to me, and well, I spent hours and hours and nights and weeks trying and wasting papers for the first time, because I never ever made flowers before. So my flowers were like this, and these particular flowers were made by kids on our offline class here in our studio. So my first flowers were like this, and even this kind of flowers, I thought, wow, goodness me, that's fantastic. They are so beautiful, I thought. Using just cardstock, just pretty simple technique, pretty simple shapes. Then wow. And then I said to photographers, sorry guys, I think that I should stop making packaging, because that's not interesting for me anymore. But I will continue and I will stay with you, so all your cake smashes can be covered, because I'm open. I'm happy to make orders for you. You're welcome. Let's discuss your color themes and whatever you want. So step by step, I came into this paper flowers world. After a while, I I found that even garlands and buntings and this tiny stuff is pretty, well, not boring for me, but I found that flowers are more interesting for me. Again, I know a few ladies uh, who started, well, at the same time when I started. So, and they started with these tiny things, and they still do after 3 years. They still do these um, cake toppers, like cupcake toppers, the tiny stuff, and they really enjoy this. They really enjoy making this tiny stuff rather than big flowers. So everyone choose for themselves. So what I chose, these these gigantic flowers. So they are large, and I said, well, maybe no, maybe not this tiny stuff for me. So, and I cancelled, not cancelled, but for that time I already had an Etsy shop with all these products there. So I revised all this and decided, no, I will cancel all these listings in my Etsy shop. So only flowers and fans. And then later on I added wedding guest books. What else there was? There were paper flowers, these enormous, huge ones, 80 centimeters big flowers for newborn sessions, where you can put this tiny baby up to 14 days old. Because I created this flower, again, thanks photographers, because one of photographers asked me, she saw my flowers and she said, you know what, I'm a huge fan of Anna Brand. That's a famous photographer, and she works with newborns, and she created something like a huge flower, and I still have no idea actually what her flower was made of. I think that was a foam, but this photographer who asked me about this favor, she said, I want to have a session with twins, and they come in a couple of weeks, because they just were born kind of yesterday or today, and in a couple of weeks they will be in my studio, and I desperate about this paper flower. I want to be the first after Anna Brand who make this paper flower shoot, but I want to have twins. Can you please make a huge flower for me so 2 tiny babies will fit? For me that was absolutely new and absolutely huge challenge, because how to make these giant flowers. So I spent 2 weeks. I spent a pack of paper, which ended up in my recycle bin. But yeah, I made this flower for her, and she said that was fantastic. And since then I started making these flowers for Australian based photographers. I said that I won't ship this flower just because it's huge, and even despite the pretty small weight, the international postage cost a fortune, just because a box is bulky. So all, not only Australia Post, but all other logistics companies, they charge a lot for this. So mostly Australian photographers got these flowers. And later on I posted, I created a video tutorial you can find in our shop, how to make this flower, because that's completely different technique, and there are a few really important things you should to consider when you make this giant flower. So yeah, if you want to make this one for your local photographers, you can find this video and obviously template in our shop. So but again, later on I found that okay, that's good to make from time to time all these guest books, all these newborn flowers, but I found that more and more orders I get, they are mostly for wallflowers, my regular wallflowers, and I started creating new shapes of petals, so new techniques, new types of flowers. I started working with new papers and created these freestanding flowers, and now we sell and hire them. So yeah, step by step I came to the business, which is all about flowers made from paper. And every time when I have these questions, when I get these questions, won't you make anything from foam, because that's more durable, that's more long lasting, and well, we want this look of the flower made from foam. And I say no, sorry, no, because over the years what I found, that I'm really proud that I run this business. I make lots of decorations which my customers can take after their event, if they do not want to keep them from first birthday, to keep them in the nursery or in their bedroom, or to give these flowers to their guests. They just can take them and put to the recycle bin with no any worry, any sorry, well, any bad thought, because that's just paper. Well, yes, there is a hot glue, which is obviously plastic, but there's a tiny amount of it. If we take the whole wall covered with flowers, there's just a tiny little bit of this plastic, and this is much less damage to nature in comparison to the wall made of these synthetic flowers made from foam or from polystyrene materials. So then after a few uses, well, yes, maybe you can hire this wall, this because it's durable, you can hire this many times, but anyway, this will end up in your bin, but not in recycle bin anymore, in the bin which goes to landfill. So I thought, I'm proud, I do not make any damages to nature, and my stuff, this is all either reusable or recyclable. So no, only paper, no any synthetic materials, no any plastic in my business. So when I started, obviously I had just a few orders here and there, and sometimes I had weeks and sometimes months without any paid orders, so I had no money, and I spent so much of family money. That's good that my husband is working in his office, and I hope he does not hear what I'm saying, because this part of this story he likes less less of all, because that this was a hard time for our family, because I spent so much money for buying papers, tools and stuff, and this and that, because I didn't know anything about that, and I wanted to try this, and I ended up with so many tools and different materials in my cupboards. They're still sitting there because I cannot just throw them. Some of them I donate to our school and our daycare for kids to try them on, but these were not right tools, or tools which I decided not to use, because I switched to flowers in particular shapes or techniques made. So these tools are useless now for me. But anyway, you won't understand if you do not try. And for that time, 3 years ago, there was not that many tutorials you can find now in social media. You can buy templates, you can buy tutorials, you can see you can watch some videos for free, you can learn. 3 years ago, there were just maybe 1 or 2 or 3 ladies doing this. So everything I made, this was either from scratch by myself, or yes, that's not a secret, and I told many times about this, that I learned from 2 ladies actually that time. One was Thai lady which I found on YouTube. She was making huge paper roses, speaking blah 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 very fast, but in Thai language. I know only two words in Thai language. These are Pad Thai and Pad See You, and that's it. So I couldn't understand any word because in Paper Flowers videos there were no these two words I know. So I tried just to watch and try to understand what is she doing, because I couldn't understand what is she talking about. So yeah, this was this Thai lady, and my husband still laughs on this, reminded me, you remember your Thai friend? Because every night he was coming back from work, and I was sitting all day long and watching this lady, and the question was, that's again your Thai friend? So yeah, that was first lady, and the second lady was Yana from Paper Shake, because that time I got her tutorial, the first tutorial I ever saw for paper flowers. So the first basic techniques I learned from her, but I was so sad because I got this video tutorial that was like inside for me. Wow, these techniques, these papers, oh, now I know how to cut them. Then I said and thought, all right, but they say about papers, designer papers in size 70 by 100 centimeters. There's no papers in this size exist in Australia. I cannot get them. There's no designer papers here, only cardstock. And when we came to glues, to glue guns, to even these cutting mats, and especially all these materials for freestanding flowers, I said, goodness me, that was wrong. That was wrong tutorial, because I cannot find anything here in Australia. So I started my journey on my own, trying to find all of these materials here in Australia, and I spent 2 years, well, maybe a year and a little bit more, trying to find out how can I make these flowers which Yana makes there in Moscow in Russia, how I can make them here in Sydney in Australia. We are still friends with Yana and Sergey. We love to speak to each other. We just exchange techniques and our knowledge, and we speak to each other pretty often. But what we found, that these are two completely different worlds. That's why I always say to girls from Russia who come to ask me, Anastasia, we want to buy your tutorial. I say, no, you are lucky. You are a Russian speaking person. Go to Paper Shake, or I can recommend some other girls in Russia. Go and buy from them, because my tutorials, they are dedicated to those who are either like me in Australia or in US, because I've been searching for all these materials and tools in US market and a little bit in Brazil, because most of my customers and my followers here on Instagram, they are from US, Canada and Brazil. So I spend lots of time trying to find the same materials, because now I know this a little bit different to Russia reality here in Australia. So I could try to do the same job in US. So yeah, and I started looking for these materials in US because the reason for that was just because when I started this business, making flowers and making friendship with Paper Shake, I got an offer from them to do the kind of business in between Russia and Australia, and these guys offered me, let's do the following. We can make flowers, we can teach how to make flowers, we can make videos how to make flowers. Let's do the following. We make videos in English, and you, as you're an English speaking person and you know the market, maybe in Australia, in US, in other countries, and you will sell these videos. So that's how Paper Pro Tutorials was born. Actually, I say this was born because like a kid for me, and so that's how we started with Paper Pro Tutorials. And I started researching this market from with one hand making flowers for Sydney paper flowers for those who want to buy them, with another hand trying to start teaching and trying to speak to those followers who want to learn how to make flowers. But still, Sydney paper flowers and paper flower making is a major part of my business. And when I started with spending lots of money, my family money, to try this, to buy that and that and that, step by step, I became a little bit known in Australia because, yes, there was, I created a Facebook page, and I tried to post a couple of times a week in photographers communities, in like different moms communities. I just played around these paid advertisements on Facebook, just to get these audience, just to get these moms and brides looking at my stuff. And slowly, but yeah, this took time, but slowly I got a few orders here, a few orders there, all for paper flowers. So the more orders I got, the more paper flowers I needed to make. So practice again, and my flowers, I started making more beautiful flowers. I started playing around colors, and my photo library grew rapidly, just because one bride wanted white, red and yellow, another bride wanted orange, green and blue. Well, they gave me so many challenges. Now I even wouldn't accept that much, just because I have much more orders. And well, about 50% of my orders, they are well, if you have a look at my Etsy shop, you see pretty many listings there. So they are this picture and listing for what pictured. So when the order comes on through Etsy, I know that these people, they want flowers in this particular look. So I do not try this look anymore. I just sit and make it. But in order to get that many looks, that many photos, you can imagine how many sets of flowers I needed to produce before I made photos. Actually, that's why I'm absolutely mad on those people, on those not honest people in our paper florist community, who think that, oh, I just started, I have no photos. Why not to take some photos from Paper Chic or from Sydney Paper Flowers? They have pretty nice ones. So I will take their photos, I will put onto my Etsy shop, saying I can make exactly the same set. Come on, ladies, that's not honest. Believe me. You use my photo or others. You put this and say, I will make exactly the same, but you won't. You won't, and your customers will be disappointed, because if you can make these particular flowers, make them. Take a photo, post in your Instagram or Etsy, and then you will be able to make exactly the same. So I never ever did this. So maybe that's the reason why my customers were always happy about what they got, because they got exactly what they saw. Um, so yeah, I tried. My first flowers and my first photos were, I'd say, pretty ugly, but they were honest. And yes, maybe that was the main reason why I had not that many orders that time, but that I had so many opportunities to try new ones, because some customers, they saw my pictures in pink, orange and white, and they've been asking, all right, I love these flowers, but can you please make them in different colors? Sure, I can, but sorry, I have no photo at the moment. I can make a photo of a few sheets of paper. You see, these are your colors. Do you like them? Yes, I like. So I will try, and then I'll send you a photo kind of during the process. And then if you like them, I'll finish, pack and send, and then you will send me, please, 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 your photo of setup. So step by step, I starting collecting these photos for my portfolio. And yes, there was a time when we came to this hard family decision. I already had a few orders a week. That was not enough money to say, oh, I'm well, that's the same as I got the same money if I am in the office on the HR position and I'm absolutely happy and I'm blah blah blah, super girl. No, but I had money at that time already, so I could buy new papers and new tools. I was able to buy this using my own money. So I opened my bank account, and the decision was that I do not get any credits from my family. My husband was so happy. That was the happiest day for him when I said, all right, whatever I spend from my own business account. Yeah, and since that, I had no money. I still had no money on my bank account, because every time when I had any debits from my customers, I already had a list of my requirements. Well, I need to try this paper and that supply, and oh, I saw a very beautiful thing in that shop. I need to try this as well. So I spent just again back to zero all my debits, but at least that was my business and my bank account, no any credits. And I was proud. That was a good step for me, and I was absolutely happy seeing and understanding that I'm on the right track. My steps are still tiny. My speed is still like I'm like a slug, like 1 millimeter a day. But anyway, this is my business. And then I started taking some collaborations with other with the influencers around, mostly from Australia, of course. And again, that took money. That took money from my account, just because when the interesting person, the influencer, that she has 100,000 followers on Instagram, and you can imagine what will happen if she gets the most beautiful flowers and put in her nursery and say to everyone, look, these flowers were made by Sydney Paper Flowers. So I could imagine how much what I will get in return. I will get followers, I will get this word of mouth, I will get this promotion, I will get much more than money. So I every time when either I could find this person or I got an offer, I always was saying yes, sure. I'm open for this collaboration. So again, I spend money for buying papers. I spend my own time for making these flowers, for postage, and for this and for that, having nothing in return. I mean, in terms of money, but much more. That took time, and after that, and after some time, I found, oh, and I have orders coming from people who saw my flowers at this influencer's page, and they asked me, oh, we saw this flower, can you please make the same for us, give us price and your turnaround? And I was, wow, that works, I'm proud of myself. That works because it took my time, that took effort, that took money, that took everything, but now money flows back. And after a few of this kind of projects, I got orders and I started working on them. And then people who bought from me, either on Etsy or Facebook or Instagram, they started posting their flowers in their nurseries, in their bridal showers, in their weddings, saying, oh, thank you. So again, word of mouth. I started getting more orders, more and more and more again in return. There were a few collaborations where I brought huge amount of flowers. These were higher projects, so they were not for so I didn't allow them to keep flowers, but they did not need them. So what happened? So when we had these collaborations, it took again lots of time and effort from me to make this. Let's imagine the whole flower wall or the whole garden of 15-20 freestanding flowers that could take me for lots of time for delivering and then picking up the stuff back to my studio. But so you can imagine I could spend a week preparing this project, so making flowers and then delivering, setting up, and then picking them up back on the day. So spending the whole day going to and to the event and back home. And I thought, oh gosh, lots of people saw my flowers, but no one can guarantee me who will buy them, who will purchase them next time. And there were a few cases when after these kind of events, when I was so tired, sad, and absolutely with no any hope sitting like this, I could get the same amount of flowers order in a couple of days, in a week, from the customer who've been to this event and saw my flowers and saying, honey, I saw your flowers and I like them, and I have an event coming up in a week. Can you please make absolutely the same what I saw for me, and please send me an invoice, use this email and my details. And every time my reaction was, and it is still like this, wow, that worked, we did it again. So believe me, every time when you do this kind of collaboration, when you put lots of effort in it, this will come back. Yes, you need to think about this collaboration twice or maybe even thrice. You need to think wisely about this. You need to think, who is this person you collaborate with? How really good this person in the market, how many followers this person has, how many people will go for this, if they see something posted by this person or showed by this person. So does it worth it? And if you feel, if you think, if you count on this person that it worth, go for it. It will pay off for sure. Well, we did this. So that was a hard decision for our family when we found that I spent more and more and more hours making flowers, but I still have a baby, the little Philip, with me during the day, and I need more days. So we started daycare for him for call. So we started daycare for Philip, so I could make a little bit more flowers and being free at home. And in a few months, we found that even these 2 days a week isn't enough. So we switched to 5 days a week, and I started spending about 3 days working just for making flowers, and a couple of days working on new techniques, finding new materials, new customers, new collaboration, all this, posting things on Instagram and Facebook. So now, what I have now, I work. I came to this stage when I've been working 5 days a week, from 9 to 6, so full-time busy, having kids in school and daycare and after school. But now, since we moved to Cherrybrook here in Australia, we have 2 kids at school, and I'm kids free from 9 to 3 only, and then since 3 I'm busy with them for all these after school activities. So I work 5 days a week from 9 to 3, then a few hours after kids go to bed, so it is from about 9 to 11 or 12 at night, and then a few hours during the weekend. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have at the moment. When I'm a little bit free from making flowers, I work on new videos and new templates just to post here in Paper Pro tutorials to share with you. I make these tiny videos which I can share on YouTube, and you can watch them there. So this is a kind of business I work for, and yeah, the income is my income allow me to not only to help my family to live, but to save something now for future big plans, hopefully. So I proudly can say this is not a paid hobby anymore. This is a real business. I run on my own. I have no employees. I do all by myself only. I have my very supportive husband who helps me. He drives me. For example, right before this live, he drove me to the post office, and while I was sending my parcels to customers, he was shopping at the groceries next door, and then we came back home. I'm saying we're rushing just because we have live video at 11. So he helps me. He drives me wherever I need, especially on setups, and he helps me with setups. Sometimes he can even purchase some tools and materials for me. For example, if I need to find a new supplier for glue sticks. I had a terrible story a few weeks ago because I found that my regular supplier just just gone, and I needed to find another one. But how can I find a new good supply? You just need to find a few and try them. So I said, can you please help me? You are good in searching and researching. Please find a few supplies, purchase from them, order from them, and yeah, I'll give you money back. So yeah, he found good supply here in Australia again. And sometimes when I need to buy something from Amazon, especially from Amazon, because we have Amazon here in Australia, but that's pretty expensive and still not everything they have available. So we order from US. So all my purchases from Amazon, he helps me with them. What else? Yeah, and sometimes when I'm tired and have no any hope and sad, so I can come to him and say, my business is not that good. He said, that's okay, this will go on, so you will be fine. I know this. So yeah, I do not have employees. Sometimes my customers, they wonder, really, how can you have no employees, because you do that huge amount of work. But yeah, that depends on how do you organize this work. And I know other girls who work in a team of 2 or 3, and if we compare our volumes, how many flowers a week they make and how many flowers a week I make, maybe it's even the same, but that's completely different routines we go through. Well, I work from home. I do not want to rent a studio. I want for me it's easier and more interesting and better and more comfortable to rent bigger home with the studio in it and pay for this home and this studio, rather than to pay for the separate studio and drive there and back every day. And since I work from home, I don't want to have any person working from my home as well. So, and I have 2 kids, so I can be flexible in the circumstances I have. So that's how I organize this. So I have pretty many orders. There was a question from Jojo Makes, I think. There was a lady on here on Instagram asking me, so how many orders a week you have and how many flowers a week you make. That's a hard question. I really cannot say, just because all weeks are different. For example, sometimes I have only small orders which come in from Etsy, and they are like the small set of flowers which moms order for their small events, or like first birthdays, christenings, what else? Cake smashes. So these are small sets, but pretty many of them. So then I can make 5 to 10 sets a week, plus doing something on top of this. And for example, for this week, I have an order for the paper flower wall, and I have only 1 week, and this is over 6 square meters wall. So I will sit and work only on this wall, and if I find in the end of the week that I have some spare time, I will finish a few orders which I still have, I still owe to my customers. So that's unpredictable. But for example, well, what you can compare, you can find on my Sydney Paper Flowers Instagram account the sets which I call wild rose and hydrangea. That's pretty